Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some new products from Picket Studios and myself. This is my newest illustration. This is called Graceful Magnolias. It does have coordinating dies with it as well. And then I'm also going to be using these cover plate dies. Picket Fence came out with a couple of different ones. I ended up using that lattice one kind of on the right hand side. And then we're we're basically going to do like some light and dark. So a light background with some dark florals and then a dark background with some light florals. And I'll kind of explain my thought process behind that. For now, we're doing some ink blending. This is going to be my light background, which really I'm just kind of creating a little bit of a illusion of a sky, like some blue, leaving some white for some clouds. The blending brushes are really, really good for getting this effect because you can get such a light blend. And I chose to use Salvage Patina and Salty Ocean for that. This is kind of like my go-to sky blend, really a big fan. If I want it to be an even brighter sky, sometimes I might pull in, if I'm going for more of a blue-green, I would pull in like Mermaid Lagoon. If I'm going for more of a true blue, I would do like Blueprint Sketch or Prize Ribbon to really like punch up the blue. For the darker one, this is different for me, but it's fall, we're in jewel tones, and I really just thought it would help these magnolias in the lighter color kind of pop off the page. And so the combination I chose for this is Lucky Clover, Evergreen Bough, pine needles, and then black soot. So it's not going to look that dramatic in the beginning, but once I like to do my ink blending twice, from lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. Once you start going back over it that second time, it really makes that the color on the outside of your halo, like the perimeter, it really makes a really beautiful kind of like jewel toned hunter green. Really a big fan of that. So here, this is obviously sped up quite a bit. But with this set, you do get, there's a magnolia branch. There's two styles of leaves and then a side view of the magnolia and one that is more open, along with a couple of different sentiments. I did include with them, with this set, a With Sympathy, because I felt like they would they would lean themselves to a more elegant style of card, which is typically, I guess, what my mind associates with a sympathy card. So that's why I chose that. And then just some, sending love, thinking of you, those types of sentiments in there. Picket Studios, when they first do a release, they typically offer a bundle, and they are with this one as well. So if you really love the set and you want to get the die, they have a bundle that is 10% off. So you can save yourself some money by buying both of them together. I love that they offer that, but that's not a forever offer. That's just a short-term offer. So here, yes, I have stamped these before. I stamped them before just to make sure that, everything lined up with the dies. So here I'm going in with the Intense Black ink from Picket Fence. This is safe for alcohol markers. And today I'm going to be coloring with Copics. So I'm just going to go in and stamp them out. I ended up stamping like 2 of these style sheets and a bunch of extra leaves, so that way I would have them to kind of tuck into the areas that I needed as I was building them together. Now each one, for the card layouts, each one uses all 3 of the flowers, but if you saw any of the design teams work with this set, you know that you don't have to. So because not a lot of other people did, they either used the branch by itself or they used the 2 smaller magnolias by themselves. I wanted to show you 2 different ways that you could use them kind of all together. So for the branch, I am coloring that brown, and then in a lot of places, I'm going to let it kind of fade off so that I can leave some of my green in in there, especially where it's starting to meet the smaller buds of the magnolia or where it's meeting those larger branches. I am going to leave just a little bit of a window there so that there's like a little white little peeking through, just so I could put some green in there so that it makes sense. For the centers, I'm doing a yellow combination. Typically, my go-to yellow combination is an E99 and a YR24 and then a Y08. But I actually need to refill my Y08, and so I was being a little bit lazy and using the Y15. The Y15 is a little bit more muted. It's not quite as bright. So either one of those that you have, you could absolutely use that. Since I knew that I was doing that really beautiful jewel toned green in the background, I wanted my leaves to be similar, but not the same. Like, I wanted them to still be seen on the background, but definitely work well with it. And so normally I would go with a more yellow green. This time I didn't. I went with more of a true green. And then I followed the same rules that we always do. So any point where two objects meet, you will have shadows. And where one object lays on top of the other, you will have shadows. And so that's kind of, as I'm coloring in my leaves for my branch, that's what you see me looking for. Where the leaf is attaching to the branch or its stem, that's going to be darker. Where it's coming out from behind a flower, that will be darker. In the, this case, like where there's that little bud on top of it, there would be a little shadow cast by the bud. And so I only did just a 3-color blend for those. You could create a lighter ones. I went out to a G05. The G03 was just a little, how do I describe it? It was a little, I don't know what the word is that I want. It was more blue-green than I wanted, more than green. There's another way to describe it, and I can't come up with it because, well, if you've watched my videos for any amount of time, you know words are hard. Words are hard for me. So with this one, I'm going in with the darker coloring, like the color combination. And so for this one, I chose RV 6966. 55 and then an RV 52. And so I'm going to have a lot more darker color in this type of magnolia. And this is the one that we're going to be pairing with the lighter background. And the reason that I'm making that choice is because what adds interest to things as well as what helps bring that kind of pop, that dramatic pop, is contrast. So by having a lighter sky background with a darker type of flower, it's really going to help those darker colors kind of pop forward and work really nicely together. The opposite is true for the lighter color flowers. Putting that lighter color on a jewel tone background, that really rich dark green is going to help then those lighter flowers kind of pop forward and create that, little bit of drama as well. For adding the shadows, you can, if you're nervous about the darker color, you can always start with your lightest color and go from lightest to darkest and then darkest back to lightest. I colored like that for years until I got more confident with where I was putting my shadows. And now I'm very comfortable for the most part in going in with darker colors. But if I'm coloring something that I've never colored before, an image I've never colored before, that maybe it's a little bit more, I don't want to say busy, that's not, a little bit more complicated, then I do default back to that, adding the shadows with my lightest color and, working out to my darkest. And that is a trick that does work. Does it mean that you kind of color it twice? Yes, but the more practice you can have with something like this, the better off you're going to be long-term anyway. So, with that being said, this was one of the ones that Nicole, who's the owner of Picket Fence. They are from Louisiana. And so if you are, familiar with magnolias, they are, definitely down there in the South. And so this was something that she came to me with that she really wanted to do was, have some magnolias. And I've seen over the years so many, other sets that were really well done that I wanted to make sure that mine was going to be a little different, but also still very versatile, because that's really my main, whenever I'm putting a set together, and it's always different because sometimes, the stamp companies have an idea, like in this case, she had the idea for the magnolias, but she didn't say specifically what she wanted. So that gives me a little bit more free reign to kind of work with for the illustration. Side note, back to the card. Here, I did use a little bit of a YG03, and that was to just help me blend into the pink for those little teeny tiny buds. For the next two, even though they're on the same sheet, this is where we're going to color the lighter colored ones. So the centers didn't change. We're still using that same color combination for the centers. Obviously, it's going to be darker, kind of at the base. And then I did do some dots of the darker color kind of throughout, so that way it would have dimension. But we're using a lot of the colors we used before. We're still using the RV55 and the RV52, but now we're adding in an RV02. I'm sorry, is it? No, it's a RV00. I apologize. And then we're using the white of the paper as well to be our lightest color. This is going to be the lighter color magnolias that you typically see where they are like pink in their centers and they kind of fade out to white. With this one, you color it a little bit differently. We're still adding the shadows, but really that's all we're coloring is the shadows. We want to make sure that we leave lots of white area because that's how the magnolias look in real life. So we're blending out that 55 with the 52 and then blending that out further with the 00. Normally when I do, like when I'm coloring something white, I tend to reach for some cooler grays, and pink kind of falls on the warmer scale. So if you really wanted to blend, you would want to use a warmer gray. But I thought that it would add a little bit more contrast by using the cooler grays. So the areas that are white, like basically just the edges of the petals, I am going in with a C3 and a C1 just to add some kind of shadows in there and help it look as if the white also has some more shadows than maybe you would normally like you wouldn't have that with the pink because you wouldn't add pink that high up. I hope that makes sense. And then because alcohol markers are transparent, going over it with the lightest color, we do see how like some of that darkness got lost. If that happens to you, you can always go back in with your darkest color and just kind of go over those, those little nooks and crannies. Alternatively, if you are a person who, has colored pencils or you enjoy colored pencils, you could go into those little nooks and cranny areas with colored pencil and really, add some depth in there if the darker colors of the markers is just a little bit too scary. And then the same thing with the cool grays, just trying to add in a little bit of depth where they're kind of like overturned but still white. And then I'm going to, I think I left it in here. I'm just going to color 2 of the leaves. As you can see, I did color lots of extra ones because, like I was saying, that versatility is really important to me. And so you can use the branch itself. Oh, here I'm going back in and just darkening up some of those leaves, just like we talked about with the darker pink. Like if you feel like it needs a little bit more darkness for that dimension, for that contrast, you can always go back in and, kind of do another layer. In this case, I just did the darkest color in my mid-tone. I did not go back in with my lightest color and blend it out. I just did these two and I was happy with the way that looked. But for the leaves, because you can, I tried to draw them in a way so that you could use them either way. You could use them with the rounder side pointing out or with the pointed side pointing out. So that way, if you were using several of the leaves, you know, let's say you wanted to use 4 leaves, you could change it so that all of the outside edges were different than just repeatedly using the same leaf over and over. And the reason that I did that is because you can use the branch as, you know, as it comes in from the side or, you know, comes in as I'm going to do on a diagonal. But then you can also use it, you can use those other flowers to kind of cover the edge of the branch to build on it as if it is a larger branch. So here everything is colored. I am using my pixie tape to hold my coordinating dies in place. I'm also going to use, like I said, that lattice one. Really like this one. I did run it through twice. And the second time that I ran it through a kind of more at a diagonal to really help apply the pressure to get those little diamonds out, and that worked really well for me. Here I have some forest cardstock from Spellbinders and some plum cardstock from Hero Arts, and I am treating that with my anti-static tool and then stamping that down with a white pigment ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle on some white detail embossing powder. I thought that since I had white in the backgrounds of both of my cards, that this would be the best way to kind of get it to show up and still match, still be cohesive with the card. So I'm just going to heat set these until they are nice and solid. And then these also, all of the sentiments have coordinating dies in the set. So I'm going to use those to go ahead and trim these out. As you can tell, I've trimmed other things out of these, and these came right out of my scrap pile because I am cheap and I will use it to all of it to the best of my ability. So here, this is what I was talking about with laying one of the flowers over the bottom of the branch. So in laying that flower there and having the other leaves kind of tucked in, I can help the branch to look as if it is all cohesive and it's kind of extending out. Same thing with the one on the end here. So I'm still using that smaller flower at the end of the branch that's still on top, but I'm tucking the other one behind, and again with more leaves. I chose to glue these all together because I wanted to pop them up. And gluing them all together beforehand just allows me to add my foam adhesive to the whole piece at one time, instead of having to cut all these teeny tiny itty bitty pieces, which I do not enjoy doing at all, not even kind of. So I'm going to do that for both of the cards. This one is going to get the plum colored sentiment that says with sympathy. And then because this has that darker kind of pink to it, there are some of the areas that are kind of hanging off the edge. That's true for both cards. And for both of them, I just flipped it over from the back and then used my little detail scissors to just trim them off. In that case that you saw me just pull the foam tape off, it wasn't even necessary because that whole part of the leaf was just hanging off. So I'm just going to trim these. That way, you know, they're flush to my A2 size card, and I could just mount it then on my card base, and everything would fit together. So, while we're finishing up the card, just like a little mini story time. Not my littlest little one, but one of my little ones, my son is actually going to camp this week. And that has a whole backstory about, like him not wanting to go, and just the back and forth of all of it. I'll have to save that one for another time. But the little piece that I did want to just touch on is trying to pack up all of the items to go. You're not allowed to use garbage bags, which I totally get. The garbage bags would rip. But then, you have to have enough duffel bags or backpacks or mesh bags in order to pack either a sleeping bag and a pillow or twin sheets, a pillow, and a blanket. Like, we don't even own twin sheets. And and this will just tell you like how much my wonderful mother is like Graham, because she was like, oh, I have twin sheets. There's not a twin bed in their house. Just so we're clear. There's not a twin bed in the house. I think the last time that we purchased twin bed sheets was when I was in college, and I am in my 40s. So she just kept them. And I think they were even like the extra, what do they call them back then? Like the extra long twin sheets. Do they still, I imagine for college dorms, they probably still have the same thing, right? But anywho, so trying to get everything labeled and packed. My wonderful husband has kind of stepped up and taken lead on that because I had some other things that I was trying to get accomplished for work. So God love him, because we only have so many, like there's only so many bags, and he's only just little. Like, I mean, he's not tiny or any, well, I mean, for his age, he hasn't really his growth spurt. But anyway, like I couldn't carry all those bags. Like all the bags that we're asking this kid to carry, I'm not sure I could carry all of them. And now I'm going to ask my kid to do it. I don't know. Anywho, back to the card. So here, what I'm doing is I'm going in and I like to blend my items into each other by coloring the outline of the die. So if there's a leaf that's tucked underneath the flower, you know, where it is meeting each other, I color that outline green so it blends in with the leaf. Same thing with the blue and the sky. For the one on the one with the more jewel tone background here, the darker background, any of the areas that were hanging over the outside edge, I did color them to be dark green, but the ones on the inside, I just left white because we did have that white background. I added some shimmer to all of the flowers, and then I added some highlights with my white gel pen. For the gemstones, I'm telling you, these are like my most used Picket Fence gemstones. It is Speed of Light because there is blue in there and some greenish yellow ones. And I really am a big fan of those. So I use those, and then that's it. That is both cards. So I hope that you guys enjoyed, seeing how to color them, light or dark. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.